Welcome to our astute agents and investors nationwide. Today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and this is Mastermind podcast number 344. We're having a little bit of a tech issue today, guys. If you come in and get muted out, it's just because everybody's signing in as an admin. Don't take it personal. If you do want to actively participate, just hit *6 and then hit 1. I wanted to start off, we have 3 people, actually 4, who posted really great wins this week on our website. So if Larry and Tammy or Mufasa or Brenda Lees, if any of you are on the call, please hit *6 and hit 1 so you can share your story first person. Otherwise, I'll recap the ones that I know about. Go around the horn. Bruce, anything you'd like to bring up this week other than the tech issues you're having?
Yeah, I mean, other than the tech issues, can I can I bring the tech issues up?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so guys, my somehow those of you that have been trying to book orientation calls or private coaching, probate coaching calls with me over the past week and a half, I've added Chuck in, who's on this call, into our coaching mix. And when I did that, I broke our Calendly link. So apparently we've had a bunch of people trying to get coaching calls that haven't been making it onto our calendars. It's fixed now, but if that was you, you have my deepest apologies, and know that it is fixed, and we'll be catching up with everyone who's been looking for a coaching call. If you want to go into the All the Leads portal and book your call again, new, you can do that. It is fixed at this point, to my knowledge.
Perfect. Everything is always a little more complicated than we want it to be, but good news fixing it. And to those of you that missed your call, I promise we weren't ignoring you. It just it's a new program, and it was a little bit of a initial glitch, but it's fixed. And Bruce just completed a foundations training. And those of you that haven't signed up, highly recommend it. It's free if you're a subscriber, and it's very inexpensive if you're not. Tim, anything you want to say to get started?
No, not a thing, bud. Not a thing.
All right. Well, we don't have anybody in the queue, so say something. We got a great attendance on the call. Just hit *6 and hit 1 if you would like to actively participate. While we're waiting for people to sign in, *6 and hit 1, I will share with you 2 of our subscribers, a husband and wife team, Larry and Tammy, couldn't be on the call today, but I had their permission to kind of share a win with you, and I want to share it for a few reasons. I think it just illustrates a few points that we always try to make. Larry and Tammy, last March, April, they got 227 leads, and for 1 month, and to quote Tammy, she said this was just as COVID was starting, and I was really surprised how many people actually answered their phones. I did come across some people who already had things handled. They were keeping the property, but they answered, and then I knew I didn't need to follow up. So it really allowed Larry and I to focus on which ones we should follow up with. But long story short, their county closed after 1 month due to COVID. It still is one of the few counties in the country that has not reopened. But they shared with me that just from that initial 1 month of leads, they had 6 closings last year, totaling over $40,000 in commissions. They connected with an attorney on one of the deals and got 2 more leads and 2 more closings. So long story short, they spent a little under $2,000 and made over $50,000. If my math is correct, I think that's about a 2,500% ROI. But and I said they're doing a few things right. They stuck with it. You know, they didn't have the leads, so they really worked every lead they had for all that it was worth. They did an awesome job with follow-up. And just recently, actually a couple weeks ago, they got in touch with Darcy, and they were tired of waiting for their county to reopen, so they took 2 adjacent counties. And I wanted to remind you all, if you're in that situation where there aren't too many counties that haven't reopened, due to COVID, but there are some counties where we're full. We limit the number of subscribers. If that's the case, if you can't get the leads in your county now and you're on the wait list, consider going to an adjacent county because, there was several in their market and they picked up 2. Anyway, that was a good story. Mufasa, if you're on the call, we'd love to hear your story. I don't have that word for word, so I'll let you share that one. And Brenda Lee's also, if you're on the call, just hit *6 and hit 1. And there you go. I talked long enough that we have people in the queue, so works every time.
Good job.
Good job. Thank you. First up this week is phone number ending in 6322. You're up first.
Hey, guys, it's Mary. How are you?
Boy, you sound like you're down a long tunnel, but you came out the other end. Say that again?
Oh, no. Can you hear me better now? I had you on speaker.
Yeah, much better.
Okay. Okay, good. Good. So my question, I just had 2 questions. I wanted to ask about probate mastery. I just want to ask, do you get like one-on-one coaching in that? Like, what's the benefit of that, but just besides the coaching we already have?
Sure. You're talking about mastery, not foundations, correct?
Mastery, because I've done foundations and mastery, yeah.
Okay. Do either of my partners want to expand on that a bit, or do you want me to? Tim?
You can,
Bruce, go ahead.
Jim, but you can also expand on this. But Mastery, I believe, is an evergreen course at the moment that is pretty good. I mean, it's definitely good. I don't know that it comes with one-on-one coaching. That's
okay.
Run by Chad, who was a partner with us, and I think that I believe that there's a weekly mastermind call that they do with it, but it's not part of our program. We do support it, and they support us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Chad's not with you guys today. I didn't realize.
I don't know that. I don't think that there's one-on-one.
I could just ask him directly. Yeah, that's another big deal.
Chad's a great guy. But we send people to each other. He rented a motorhome and he's touring the country, and I think Mastery is pretty much all he's doing now. So just reach out to him directly, and he can answer that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just wanted to ask one more question. I'm making my calls daily here, and is that too much? Like, if someone doesn't answer, I'm just calling them every day until they answer. Is that too much? Or?
How many leads do you have? And
I don't have very many yet. Yeah, I don't have very many yet. I'm only at like 50, not even. It's like 30. So because that's the ones that actually I'm calling. That have property, and I'm getting more counties, but I've been calling for about less than a month. Yeah, I just got them.
Yep. I love the idea of calling every day. Very few of our subscribers call every day. Very, very, very few. But I really like it. If I was going to call every day, I'd probably call daily for maybe a week to 10 days at the most. And then I'd likely go ahead and start to space it out a little bit more moving forward. The ultimate goal is that you're going to call people for 6-7 months, longer if you can. But so for me, I would probably go daily for a week. At that point, I'd likely drop it back to every 10 to 14 days. After doing that for a month or 2 months, then I'd probably just space it out on a monthly call after that. Because if they haven't called you back after those 7, 8, 9, 10 calls, they're probably still bogged down in the probate process, and it's likely going to be a few months before you're able to hear from them. If you keep leaving messages, you keep calling, you will eventually hear from them. But some people are either proactive and they're jumping on it quickly, or they're definitely gonna be bogged down, and that person that's bogged down is likely the guy or girl that's going to take 4, 5, 6 months before they actually make any sort of decisions on real estate or asking for help.
Yeah,
so,
makes sense.
Love the idea
that's
of
a
calling
good framework.
daily.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But I wouldn't call daily
for the first
for a month.
week and then taper down. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll add to that if I may. I've shared this story a couple times before, and forgive me, but I don't think I've talked about it recently, but I was kind of a prospecting machine when I was an agent, and I always felt like I wanted to err on the side of being aggressive. If you're annoying people, they'll tell you to stop calling. I had a guy one time, a FISBO, that said to me, "My God, are you going to call me every single day?" And I could tell he was like just mildly annoyed. So I said, "Well, there's one way to stop that. List your house with me, and you'll never hear from me again." And,
that's a good one.
Obviously, I was kidding, but the guy laughed and said, "I like you. You got a sense of humor. Come on over." So, I'm with Bruce. I would call every day. Personally, I would call every day for a couple weeks until you either tells you to stop calling or not. Especially if you've only got 40 or 50 leads. What do you have to lose? And people do equate. If they get a little annoyed, you can always say something like, "I'll be just as aggressive at getting your home sold once you do list it."
That's a good one too. Okay. Yeah.
People do associate. They do associate aggressive-ness. If it's friendly aggressiveness, they associate that with a hard worker and somebody who's going to get results. So, personally, I'd err on the side of overcalling rather than undercalling, because most agents, do the latter. Most agents are not that aggressive in making the calls.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Guys, Chuck, anything you want to answer? I know Chuck's on the call this week. Anything you want to add, Chuck?
No, I think you guys hit it pretty well from a standpoint that I don't like to hammer people, especially right as the initial list, because they're overwhelmed with a lot of the initial activities that need to go on at the courts, filing and the tax statements and those type of things. So I have found the best success to be able to give them information in the mailbox, and then, leaving that voice message if they don't pick up, which is a majority of the time, and leveraging that voice message as a marketing piece and delivering a value proposition there and leading with the helping hand.
Perfect. So have a reason to call every time rather than just keep asking for business. Yeah, good point. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we have one more in the queue. Don't be shy. We're looking for our win of the week with a fabulous prize of free leads. We're also looking for our idea of the week. In this really incredible seller's market, what are you doing to get business? And it doesn't have to be probate related. Just hit *6 and hit 1. In the meantime, next up in the queue is phone number ending in 9585. You're up next.
Hi. First of all, I just want to thank you guys for having me. Working with Probate has been the single best lead source that I've had ever. Since I've taken the Probate Foundations class and had gotten the certified probate expert, I had all of my contracts, every one of them have ended up being probate.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it just fell that way. And I have been able to utilize that certified probate expert title to my advantage. I've actually landed about 3 contracts that way. Just having that title has really helped. So I want to thank you guys for all the work you do. I've really learned a lot, and I did want to talk about a recent experience. I'm actually kind of still going through, but I'm not sure if you've probably seen this. Maybe you have, but we ended up getting an offer on a probate listing that was about $9,700 over asking price. And 3 days into the as-is contract, they tried to renegotiate to only $700 off the asking price, a $9,000 reduction. And, I brought it to my seller and I said, look, this is a bait and switch maneuver. But the truth is that we are in an as-is contract. And basically what we did was we were able to wait out the inspection period And because the buyer's agent wasn't very well versed on contracts and what to do, we were able to lock him into that contract, and we're going to close on that property.
Nice. So the inspection period expired, and they didn't make a request for a reduction formally, so they were locked into the
Correct.
original. That's great. Good.
They never actually canceled it and presented a new offer, and they ended up getting locked right into the contract.
Nice. Did it close, or is pending closing?
It's pending closing next week.
Awesome. Good job.
Okay. I would say that that's even more of an indication that they were bait and switching you. They probably didn't expect a $9,000 reduction on the property. Either the buyer's agent really didn't know what they were doing, or they knew, hey, let's take a stab at this, try to get them down, and then when you didn't answer, they were like, well, I guess we're closing. So that's a major thing to keep your eye on, especially in the probate space, is you are going to have investors that like to play the game. And you're probably going to see that a number of times moving forward, is some people just like to play the game. And you guys in your state, you don't have any kind of non-refundable due diligence or option fee, do you?
We have in our seller's contract, we have a $100 cancellation fee on the contract, but the thing is that we do good work, and my pay usually just comes straight out of commissions. As far as those fees go, I'm not really sure. I didn't really deal with those too many. But I will say this, that my broker had said that it's starting, we're in this competitive market with buyers, we're starting to see more and more bait and switch maneuvers, because what they're trying to do is lock the property up for the inspection period and then present multiple offers on different homes and then see which one they get.
Yeah.
And that's what he's telling me.
Mm-hmm. So this would be definitely kind of a specialized type of approach for you in a market like yours, because I don't know what state you're in, but I'll tell you in my state, in North Carolina, or I think Texas does this. There are about a handful of states that have things like this. And it's totally legal in pretty much every state, but it does require a specialized contract. But in North Carolina, there's a due diligence fee that's given in addition to the earnest money fee. And that due diligence fee is the seller's or the buyer's skin in the game. If the only way that the buyer gets that money back is if they can prove that there was seller fraud. So it started out that they'd have to put $250, $500 into the deal right up front, and that was essentially buying their inspection period. Was basically what it was. It was buying a period for them to do their due diligence, their inspections, to get their loans, things like that. And if they decided during that time frame to back out, then they could back out for whatever reason they wanted, but they weren't getting that due diligence money back. Since then, it's actually gotten a little bit out of hand, where now I think our average due diligence fee in my market is $30,000 maybe. So I can guarantee you put $30,000 up front and non-refundable money into a deal, you are not backing out, and you're probably not even really going to have much leverage to negotiate repairs. So that kind of thing can get out of hand. But like my market's gotten out of hand with it, but it's a really powerful clause to put in a contract if you want to kind of create your own contracts with with a little bit of extra skin in the game. You just tell the buyer, hey, as is, you can terminate, but you're not getting this money back. And if it's $500 or $1,000, you'll still have some termination, you'll still have some negotiation, but you lose the people that are just going to walk all over you with no intent of closing or with every intent to renegotiate.
Oh, okay. I've not heard of that till you just said it. It's a little bit.
aren't many. There aren't many states that do it. Just look up like North Carolina due diligence period, and I mean, I doubt your state's going to go that way. They might, but you could always have a contract drafted that has some kind of a due diligence period in it. If you or your brokerage want to draft an internal contract, I will tell you, you're gonna having a contract like that, you're gonna run into people that say that's not the way we do things, and the risk is that you might lose a few buyers. There's a risk there that those buyers that plan to renegotiate the deal or plan to walk away. So you could lose a few of them, but you also keep the buyers in the deal that you want to keep in.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I'll try to talk to my broker about that.
You know, it reminds me of a little bit I was going to add, Bruce, in my investing career. I can't tell you how many times there was a local franchise investing company. I won't mention their name, but something about houses being ugly, and But every time I ran into them, and I would have a seller that said, "Oh, I've got an offer on the property," I would just tell them, "Be careful." What they used to do is they would put down $100 deposit, having no intention of closing, because I knew these guys, and I don't think they ever closed on anything, and they would try to either assign the contract or flip it before closing. And if they couldn't, they'd walk away from $100. So I'd make my deposit $5,000. It was still contingent on inspections and everything, but it just looked a lot better and a lot more sincere than somebody just putting up $100. And that's in the investing end of it. But I agree with what you said, Bruce. A happy medium would be good. Some kind of a doesn't have to be $30,000, but even a $500 non-refundable deposit is gonna look good, and it's gonna separate it's gonna separate your buyer or the buyer who's serious from somebody who's planning on playing games.
Mhm. Yep.
Well, is this Manny? Manny, is that your name?
Yeah.
Manuel?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Did you have another question? Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Manny. So, I mean, he was pretty positive on this being, right, the best niche so far, and as far as your prospecting efforts. And there's a number of people that are listening here. So, what approach are you taking from a marketing perspective that's kind of validating that this is working the best for you?
Well, believe it or not, the letters work. Especially when and a high percentage of the letters that we send to Canada are come back because nobody reaches out to anybody in Canada for some reason. I'm like the only person to get to Canada when I when I see a Canadian address, I'm like, oh great, awesome, let me send it out. So the letters really do work. I get callbacks from the letters all the time. So.
Well, that's great. How many times do you mail to them?
I mail them out. I try to mail out for each set of leads that I get. I'll mail out, and I've made my own. I'll just put that out there. As sometimes I'll use the ones that we get on, but I've made a really sort of a short, simple version of it with a testimony from someone that I've helped, and I mail them out maybe to the same lead set, maybe 2 or 3 different letters to go out to that same lead set, and I'll end up getting a call back from at least 2 or 3 of them. And so, but that particular method has helped me a lot.
Yep.
Great. And,
absolutely.
And then you follow every letter up with a call, or how often do you call them?
I do, but I find that with each one that I call, I get a higher percentage of the people that call me back that I've not even reached out to yet. So it's funny because, you know, I would call the people, but some of them I wouldn't be able to get to right away. And it's the ones that I haven't called that they call me back. It's really, for me, it's weird.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
So
hey, weird is good. You said this is your single biggest lead source. How many deals have you done total?
For probate, since I started, let's see, I've gotten 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've gotten about 6 or 7 ones from actually about eight of them just from probate.
Great.
So,
and how long you've been working them? How long you've been working the probate leads?
This has been since I don't even what is this month?
September, barely.
I want to say I've really been working them for about 6 months, but
okay.
The thing is the last 2 months haven't really counted because I moved up to Alaska, and so I've been dealing with that. So yeah, so it's been pretty good.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I would say, Manny, you're a classic example. We tell people it's the mindset, you know, and people, I got 100 leads and I only did one deal. Well, I mean, you don't need to have a high conversion to have this be a tremendous ROI. Your ROI has got to be through the roof just doing 1 or 2 deals a month because you're not spending that much. And now you're in Alaska. Are you working a different market, or are you remotely working the market you were in?
I'm remotely working. I'm actually still writing contracts in Alaska for Florida.
Great.
Yep.
Great. And you've got boots on the ground in Florida?
I do. I have a business partner that is working in the office there, and what we're doing is we're splitting it 50-50.
Perfect. And are you going to start prospecting Alaska? We have very few subscribers. It surprised you how many people send letters to Canada. You'd be surprised how few subscribers we have in Alaska. And people do die there. They do have probates there also.
Well, I would like to try to get either a license for Alaska, just because Alaska is such a specialized state. Working with real estate in Alaska is very, very different than Florida. And so before I do any of that, I have to look into the market here.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Bruce, questions?
Questions. It's not necessarily a question, and Manny, this is not a correction. Okay, this is in no way is this aimed at you. I remember an agent that came to work for a brokerage around the same time that I was getting my real estate license, and so our broker's deal was that the first lead that came into him after you started, he would take a new agent on that appointment. He'd sign the listing up, he'd sign the buyer up, and he'd work it with the new agent, and he'd kind of give them the deal. And so the broker had a pretty decent sized brokerage who's making good money on the brokerage split. So he would just kind of bring one of the new agents along with him. And I'll remember one of the guys that joined at the same time. It was like day number 1, and the broker grabbed him and said, "You're going on this listing appointment with me." They went out on the listing appointment, and the buyer or the seller signed on the spot. Was like, "Oh yeah, this is a no-brainer. I'll sign." It was a couple $100,000 deal, and the commission was going to be like $10,000, and immediately they got a call on the sign. They put a sign in the ground that day. They got a call on it. The person said, "This is exactly what I've been looking for. I want to sign up." So they signed a buyer up. They double-ended the listing, all in like the span of less than 24 hours. The buyer was cash. They closed in 3 weeks. And he got a $10,000 commission check. And he looked at the broker that we had, and he said, "Man, this business is easy. This business is easy." And the broker told me later, he said, "I knew that I had a problem right then. I knew I had a problem right then." And the guy didn't stick with real estate beyond more than about 2 years, because everything else was kind of all uphill from that point. It wasn't all downhill from that point, because most deals are harder than that. You're not going to double end many. It's pretty rare that you're going to put one day work in and get a listing. So my caution to not you, Manny, but those listening is Manny just described some really great success, and I want to kind of take the opportunity to prepare you guys, those that are listening and those that will listen in the future, to not look at that and say, "Oh, this business, this probate business is easy." I'd rather you prepare to put the work in and for it to be hard, and put the work in making your phone calls. And then when the easy business comes, be happy for it. Consider it gravy. But for the most part, I want most people to prepare to call and work their leads for like 5 or 6 months before the average lead converts. And if you can kind of build your plan around that 5 to 6 month prospecting approach, where you're doing a few more letters, you're making some more phone calls, then all that easy business is just going to be gravy. And giving
Sure.
it that push and that kind of effort into a campaign is going to probably 5x. I don't want to use the Grant Cardone 10x. It's probably going to 5x what you would otherwise be getting out of your probate business, because the low-hanging fruit is going to come. The people from Canada that aren't getting mail, they're going to call you. All right. But I want those people that have ignored you for 4 or 5 months to also call you back after the 4th, the 5th, the 6th month and say, "I'm sorry for ignoring you. I've been meaning to call you. I just got so bogged down, but now we're ready to sell a house." And Manny, that yes, that is for you. Put in a little bit of extra work. You're gonna grab a lot of extra business that way. But that's especially relevant for people that might be in a little bit more competitive market and a little bit tougher market. That I don't want everyone to walk into this expecting that they're going to send 2 letters out and they're going to get a call and a listing. I want people to walk in expecting that they're going to prospect for 6 months and then they're going to get their conversion.
Well said. Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Bruce,
Yep,
you reminded me. This is story day. You reminded me. I heard Mike Ferry tell a story one time. He went to a sales award ceremony, and the salesperson of the year was somebody named Sheila, and Sheila wasn't there. He said, "Where's Sheila?" He said, "Well, she got into real estate because she needed a new couch and some new furniture for her house. She sat floor time. Somebody walked in and listed a $7 million property. She did an open house on it the following weekend, and she sold it herself, and she retired."
Wow.
So, yeah, that's like winning the lottery. Winning the lottery ticket. That doesn't happen too often. And Manny, you're putting in your. I would say what Bruce said. You didn't do that at all. We have people that the first week they get 4 or 5 listings, and Bruce is right. Sometimes it comes too easily. You put in your dues over the last 6 or 7 months. So, I mean, you put in your time, and you said it's your best lead source. Are you working other lead sources, or is it you're just strictly concentrating on probate?
I've decided to concentrate on probate because the other lead sources that I've had haven't been as good, and so since I'm trying to get more organized with what we're doing now, it's pretty much all we can handle. So what we're doing is we're trying to grow and be able to handle more as much as we can. Because there are a lot of buyers that we're trying to, and the problem is dealing with the buyers in this market is very difficult, trying to get sales. So that's the list. As far as listings go, the probate is definitely where we're focusing on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Go ahead, question, Bruce, or comment?
Tim, I was just going to say one other thing that he pointed out that, I'd also like to hammer home, and that is that he looked at it and saw, well, the out-of-town folks that he gets, particularly the ones that are in Canada, he says, nobody's out chasing these people, and they kind of neglect them. And one of the things that I know we hear time and time again, and we don't hammer home as hard as we should, is that the out-of-town owner or the out-of-town PR is typically one of the best possible options you have in terms of dealing with it, because they're not there. They aren't the boots on the ground locally. They may or may not have any contact locally. And if you're going to shower a lot of attention on somebody, the person who potentially is going to appreciate it the most and you're providing the most value for is that person who isn't there, who really is going to struggle to get this done because they're doing it remotely. And you made a really good point about the fact that you jump on the ones that are showing up in Canada. And I'd say the same thing to anybody else that's on here. If if you're in Boise, Idaho, and you find that you've got owners from Albuquerque, or PRs in Albuquerque rather, that you're trying to service, they're going to be extremely appreciative if you can find a way to specifically point out that they're not local. And we've had 2 or 3 people who have segregated their list, and they've done a local mailing, and then anybody who's not local, they do a different mailing to, and call out the fact that I've noticed that you're the personal representative and you're not local to our market here, and there are a number of things that I may be able to offer you that you may not be aware of in our local market. Let's talk. And that gets people's attention pretty quickly. And that's something you might want to consider doing, is segmenting your mailings to differentiate between the local and the remote personal representative.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Yep. And we do have one other person in the queue, guys. If anybody else would like to jump in, hit *6 and hit 1. And I was going to make another point. Now I forgot what it was. Oh, yeah. One other point I did want to hammer home. We've had several agents that had just gotten their license, and their first 3 or 4 deals were probate. The nice thing, Manny, about moving to a new market, Canada, if you do get your license there, or for people on this call that are brand new in the business, there are so many absentee owners. They don't know you from the person with signs all over the neighborhood and TV commercials and ads and everything else. You're just somebody who took the time to reach out to them. So, if I were an agent today, I think I would be doing what you're doing. Maybe not exclusively work probate, but I'd spend the majority of my time there. The time invested for the reward is disproportionate to almost any other lead source. And we really thank you for contributing today. I think you got a good chance of being the winner of the week. We do have 2 other people in the queue. Any last questions or anything else we can help you with? You there, Manny?
No, that actually, you guys have been a real blessing. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you participating. Next up is phone number ending in 6628. You're up next.
Hey, guys. How are you today?
Doing great. How about you?
Good. That voice sounds familiar.
Yes, sir, Bruce. It's Scott Hale from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, Scott. What's happening, man?
How are you doing? Hey, I've got a win and a future win down the road a little bit. But yeah, it was an out-of-state lead that I got back in January, and followed up with her pretty quick, and she was pretty nasty to me. She hung up on me once, and then I followed up with her a couple weeks later, and then she preceded that call with a pretty nasty part of herself, and then I just pulled out the Foundations Class 101 and said, sounds like we're really early in the process, and, why don't you just, sounds like you don't need anything right now, and you have a pen and paper, you can take my number, and I don't know if she did or not, but followed up with her about another 2 months later, and ended up taking the listing with her for her father's house, and she's in Tennessee. He was in Georgia, and I've never met her, which is a good part, I guess. Well, the expedient part, and then listed that house and sold it about a week ago, and it went under contract in about a day. And she also has a brother that is going to be he passed away, and ended up, I'm going to be listing his house in about another month. So,
wow.
Foundations works. The verbiage works. It's one of the easier calls to make, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. That's incredible. So basically you took someone that everyone else probably quit calling because she was abrasive and rude, and you kept in touch. You kept following up. That's amazing. Jim,
yep.
You had something?
No, I was just going to say that for those of you that haven't been through Foundations, that I love that technique of if they're getting ready to hang up or get rid of you, just the technique of, hey, would you mind just taking a minute and write down my name and phone number? And you really don't care if they do or not, and there probably aren't, but they think that takes the pressure off. They think, oh, good, I'm off the hook. He's going to let me go. And then after you give them the phone number, you can throw another question or two in there. I love that technique, and it sounds like that worked really well for you, Scott.
It did.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. Great job.
Thanks.
Great job. And then yet again, another example of someone that was out of state, out of the area. These folks, especially the ones out of the area, need help.
And I didn't get to use David Pinnell's latest trick, which is, wait, don't hang up. she already accomplished that task in fact on me.
But wait, there's more. And then you said you had a future. You had a future win also. Share that with us.
Right. It's going to be a listing next month. It's the probate's in a different county. It's a little messy with getting everything. The same attorney's taking care of both cases, and it's a little slower process in that county. But it'll be about a $300,000 listing, and we've got to get the house cleaned out.
You've been with us for years, haven't you? Has it been a couple years?
Yep. And I just sat on my tail and didn't take a lot of action, which shame on me.
Yeah, I wasn't going to point that out, but thanks for admitting it. I think I coached you briefly when I was the coach for the company, and I admired the fact that you were sticking around even though you weren't doing much. So what changed for you that all of a sudden you just started to take action? Was it a single thing, or you just figured it was time, or what's changed that you're getting such good results now?
It really is the seasoning of these leads, I think, is kind of the factor. And I've got quite a few leads, and they still have property. And, I just wrote up on my board here, my whiteboard, of how much potential it is. And I took to heart what you said, Bruce, about it taking 5 to 6 months. But if I can close, 2% of these, over the next 90 days, I'll be in really good shape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you make a great point. I've said before with my partners, most companies kind of suffer from attrition, from people quitting. I've never seen a business like ours where a huge percentage of the people that take a break or quit come back. Because same thing you said, Scott. They'll put in their efforts for a few months, 3, 4, 5 months, not really get great results, and then 8 months later, they'll start to get calls and listings from the initial groundwork they did, and they say, oh, maybe this does work. Let's go give it another try. So credit to you that you stuck with it the whole way. You didn't come and go, and we appreciate you, man. Thanks for sharing.
Sure. Where I need to focus, my next area is on the surviving spouses. It's a little different call, but I've got quite a few of those leads. And
awesome. Yeah, just more compassion, less pressure.
Different call.
Yeah, exactly, different call. And I'm sure Bruce covered that in Foundations. That's great.
You guys are great, though, man. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Scott. Feelings mutual, buddy. Appreciate you. All right. Well, we have one more in the queue. We probably can squeeze 1 or 2 more in. This will be the last call for the queue this week. Hit *6 and hit 1. In the meantime, the last in there now is phone number ending in 6755. You're up next.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Yeah, hey, this is Michael White from Charlotte, North Carolina. I got a quick question concerning probates and trust. So I was pulling some state files yesterday from a local courthouse, and noticed that, of course, the person, the decedent has died, of course. They filed a probate. The personal representative was listed. But also as part of the documentation of the paperwork within the file, there was a trust, the actual trust itself, a copy of the trust. So does that mean that any real estate that was part of that the person was living in, the decedent was living in, does it automatically go into the trust? And then can it be sold like immediately, or does it have to wait?
Jim, do you know? I mean, I've got. I'm going to speculate a little bit, but I want to give you an opportunity to chime in if you know for sure.
The only thing I would say, if the trust was comprehensive and properly funded, they would not have needed to file a probate. I don't believe. So what? Tell me again. Where did you see the trust? You just saw it in the documents with the will, or where did you? How did you find the trust?
Yeah, it was actually in the probate file folder. It had the will was there as well as the trust, and it looked like the trust had been created back in 1997. And I read it briefly. It said, in case the gentleman passed away, it would go to the wife. It talked about marital, and then I think I can't remember the other part. But it said it would be split up in two different ways. Part of it would go to the wife, and then it sounded like it would go to the heirs, and then the decedent just passed away here recently within the last 2 months. And it looks like the wife has already passed because she wasn't listed on the list of heirs or anything.
And who filed the probate? There was an heir that took the initiative to file the probate.
An heir through an attorney. Yes, I mean there is an attorney involved, and the heirs to the attorney filed the probate.
My best guess, and I'll tell you a personal story. When we started this company in 2013, I said, we kept talking about living trust. I said, I got to go file one of those. And I mentioned it to my attorney. He said, I filed one for you back in 2000. But I had never funded it, which is a trust that isn't funded is pretty much worthless, and so many people do that. They set up a living trust, they mean well, and then they buy 3, 4, 5, 6 more properties over the course of their life, and they forget to fund the trust with those properties. So, I'm not an attorney. I would ask the attorney of record on the case, but it sounds like they had a trust that may have included some of their assets, but not all. So they had to file a probate. And if you look at the trust, typically anything that's mentioned in the trust would not have to go through probate. Anything that isn't probably would. But regardless, it sounds like they want to sell the property, right?
I don't know. I haven't called anybody yet. Just looked at the file, but I do have the number for the personal representative, which is local here to the Charlotte area. So obviously that's going to be the first call I make. But then I didn't know if it'd be worth calling the trust also, because there's an address and a phone number. I found an address and phone number for the trust. So is it worth the phone call to make to the trust?
Personally, Bruce, you may have a different opinion. Yeah, probably. Go ahead, Bruce. You have an answer?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of agree with what Jim said. Michael, would this be in North Carolina probate, or would this be in South Carolina?
Yeah, it's a North Carolina probate. The trust, though, was written and looks like administered out of Oregon.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So basically, I'm going to completely speculate here, but I'm going to say that they created the trust, they funded the trust. Since it was done 25 years ago, I guarantee there are more assets than they originally put into the trust. So the trust is relevant. But if they've sold assets out of the trust, if they have bought houses, or if they've done anything and those houses have not gone through the trust, or personal property or bank accounts or anything like that has not gone into that trust that was created 25 years ago, then only those assets that were originally and initially put in the trust, only those assets are eligible to pass directly to the heirs. So I'm going to bet that trust has very little in it at this point.
Right.
So anything that was purchased since then probably has to go through probate. I would call the number on the trust, but I wouldn't expect it to be very good. I'd call just in case, but that PR is probably settling both the trust and probate. Anything in the trust can probably be sold immediately. Likely check with an attorney on that to confirm. In real estate, and specifically in North Carolina, the majority of real estate does not have to go through probate, even if it wasn't put into the trust. So you're probably going to be able to sell a house without having to go through probate anyway. Obviously, there are some exceptions to that rule, but 90+% of all real estate in North Carolina does not have to go through probate. So I would call the PR first, and I'd take a flyer. If the PR doesn't answer, I'd take a flyer and call that number that's on the trust.
All right, good deal. One more quick. I have another quick question, if the time allows.
Oh, yeah, we have plenty of time. I was just going to add real quickly. You asked who to call first. I'd start with the PR and then the attorney. Yeah. And if you don't get, I doubt you'll even have to call the trust. I strongly suspect the two of them will give you the answers you need. That we won't have to check with the trust. And you're our last up. You're our last up, so we got time for more questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do on the previous question, was call everybody just to make sure my bases were covered. It just threw me for a loop when I saw the trust paperwork inside the file. I'd never seen that before. The last question is, person has passed away, got a decedent. Looks like there were no heirs involved, so therefore an attorney is the PR and handling everything with the estate. And it looks like there's a big ticket real estate involved in this estate. So, I'd like to approach the attorney somehow, but I have no relationship with the guy at all. I couldn't pick him out of the lineup if he was standing in front of me. So, what's the best way to do it? I know you got the standard spiel of, hey, I'm here to help you with the stuff you don't want to handle with. Any other suggestions?
I would probably lead with questions. So who's your, hey, Mrs. Attorney, Mr. Attorney, instead of I do this and I do that, I'd probably say, do you have anybody that's helping? I was technically calling about case number 1234, but this would probably apply to other cases. Do you have anyone who helps you coordinate property cleanouts and things like that on your team? And I'd just see if they had anyone that helped coordinate that stuff, and then say, I'm also an investor, or I'm also a realtor. You're a realtor. You do both, I think. So who do you typically refer? Okay. Is your referral partner pretty well versed in probate? So I'm gonna kind of take the assumption that they have somebody, and I'm gonna ask how versed they are, who they typically refer. Asking those types of questions are really going to reduce the pressure, and kind of their defenses aren't going to be up as much. So get them to answer who they normally refer, and then say, if somebody else was able to take a lot off your plate, would you consider adding another referral partner?
All right. That's a good approach. I like that approach.
Yep.
Okay. That's it. That's all I have.
I was going to share one more thing with you just to give you some inspiration. One of our clients has been with us for about 4 years, Bill in Southern California. Early in his probate career, he made friends with a court-appointed executor, and he just was such a help to the guy and got such a reputation. He started referring him to other court-appointed executors, and like the gentleman earlier who said he does nothing with probate, Bill now only works the court-appointed executors, the attorneys, because it's less emotion, it's more of a business relationship, And he shared with us that a lot of realtors and investors are kind of intimidated to reach out to those people. So he actually has less competition. Bill was on a call with us, it was probably about a year ago, and said he's gotten such a reputation that the judges are referring him now to divorce situations. Starting out with, once you make friends with the attorneys, it flows over to the judges, and that can be a really nice niche for you that not too many people are working.
Yeah, I've heard Bill tell that story. That's a great story.
Great. Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Michael,
it, guys.
hey,
Thank you very much.
Michael, I owe you a call.
Yeah.
Don't think that I was intentionally ignoring you. I owe you a call.
Oh, that's all right. Don't worry about it, man. I know you're crazy busy, and that's fine. No problem.
All right, we have one last-minute person. Thank you very much. We have one more person to jump back in the queue. I think it's somebody else who was already in. We got about 2 minutes, and last up for sure is phone number ending in 6628. You're back.
All right, I'll be quick. Hey, this is Scott up in Atlanta. Hey, I've got I've got a commercial property that's in a trust, and the owner of the trust has passed away, and I'm going to be most likely selling that property for them. But the question is on kind of tax implications for this. Since it was in a trust, are there going to be taxes that have to be paid on the sale of this property? And are there any future tax changes that are being worked on, I guess, with the step-up basis or such? I don't know what I'm talking about. So, but anything you guys know about it?
Neither do I, so I'll defer to Bruce.
Oh, come on!
Not much help with
come on, you beat me. You actually beat me to it. I do think that there are some future changes coming down the pike for step-up basis. Considering it's in a trust, well, number one is not a CPA. As a matter of fact, I'm probably the last person that you want to talk to about taxes, but I think that step-up basis taxes are going to change. Anything that was passed down under current law will probably stay the same, so be grandfathered in. But the trust should really, depending on how it was set up, should really shelter or have locked in any taxable assets that were passed down. So you're probably not going to see a whole lot with regard to taxes if it was all put into a trust properly. Probably not. It depends on how the trust was set up. But go get yourself a really good CPA that's a part of your team that you can direct those questions to. That's my BS type of answer that I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. Because the reality is I would have to go talk to a CPA on that one myself.
And one of our salespeople, Jordan, was actually in the financial services industry. He just posted, for what it's worth, he said for the last two questions about trust, they may not have put all their assets in the trust. Selling the house could depend on if the house was listed in the trust or registered in their name individually. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what we said. If it wasn't funded in the trust, if it wasn't part of the trust, if it wasn't put in the trust name, if they owned it individually, which a lot of people do, they don't put everything in there. It would have to go through the normal probate process. So, All right. Well, we appreciate it. Both times you participated, we thank you. I think we have two winners of the week this week. We may just get generous and give both of you some free leads. I want to close like I always do, guys. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. We had a great turnout. I want to particularly thank those that actively participated. And I want to challenge each of you, take one idea, one thought, one thing that inspired you on this call. Go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. We will talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.